but having endurance and being able to keep going and getting yourself there when you're not winning is what is ultimately going to get you to win. So it's this catch-22. If you have a really successful business and you are no longer passionate about it and you want to go do something else, I'd like to offer you my email. I'd love to buy your company. Before you hit $2 million of sales, you don't really know that you have a market for your product, in my opinion. The amount of money that they pay you is also tied to an expectation.
So Chad, you were speaking before about private equity. I stopped you because we were speaking before. Can you tell me more about these mixed feelings?
Yeah, I don't want to demonize a big financial backing group. They're really good at what they do, and they do, call it finance games, but it's really, I heard somebody say once at my old gig, weaponized finance, and that really resonated with me.
Okay.
There's finance, and there's being a competent CFO, or just knowing your P&L, your financial statements, and that's great. And then there's everything you can freaking do with it. And so and the guy coined it weaponized finance, and so I love that. They're really good at that. Some of the groups are good operators, some are not, but the real playbook is what I was talking about. So I was talking about the platform company, and that was where we were like, okay, hey, pause. Yeah. Platform company is typically when they enter a space. So a fund, they've got like 5 years to deploy that capital and then return it back to the investors, right? And so what they'll do, time is of the essence, and they'll typically enter a predetermined or not industry, and they will invest in a initial platform company.
Okay.
And that's something that's a bit more established. It has organization, it's got SOPs, or it doesn't. And they usually hired what I used to do, a management consultant, to help them implement it, if not have their own team implement those things.
Can you give an example of a platform company? Not direct, but
sure.
Just industry.
An example of a platform company. You work with escape rooms, right?
Yes.
Okay. How many escape rooms do you have?
No, nothing. Now we make escape rooms for the others.
You make escape rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, even better. Are there other companies that make escape rooms?
Yes.
Okay. It would be the difference between you have a company and a model for developing these,
okay,
and a playbook. You have a professional management team. You have SOPs, crisis management tactics, all of that in place. And here's a shorter version of it. Can you acquire a company the same size or greater, and you might adopt a couple of their SOPs or ways of doing business, but typically you would just integrate it into yours more or less seamlessly.
Okay.
That's kind of the litmus of a platform.
Okay.
Because it's really a base for acquiring organically or inorganically acquiring other competitors
Similar,
adjacent.
Yes.
Growing organically. So that's kind of how I define a platform. And if you're not thinking that way, and most founders or builders aren't, right, you end up having this family-owned legacy company because you're not intentionally installing a professional management team so that you can be above the business and go, find those other competitors to acquire and so on.
Okay.
So that's how I think about it.
Awesome. So we'll go at the beginning to Tjaša. There's a crazy story about you and your first business. You were like 20-something-year-old student that got the idea and actually create the business of selling camel food to the Middle East. So how did you get this idea? Because it's even crazy to think about this idea. What about to create this business around it?
Yes. So we were about, I don't even remember, 23-ish in college. My friend Patricia, she was watching a documentary, got the idea of like, okay, we have this like competitive camels, they're racing. What if we make food for them, right? Like they're in the Arabian Peninsula. There's not much food growing there. We could probably do better what they're doing right now. That's like a quick version of it. And yeah, we went to some fairs, some agricultural fairs in Dubai, Oman. We got some networks there, some business partnerships. We launched a business, started shipping containers, expanded our food varieties, I would say, and had a pretty good run at a startup that started having pretty significant sales. And then it was the three of us at that time, me, Patricia, and Matic. And then, the famous 2020 COVID. And it's really hard for us, especially because we were a business that was working with foreign countries. We were we had to be present a lot. It was throwing a lot of obstacles at us with traveling, with helping, build our presence, our sales, and all that. So we had a certain runway with the cash flow we had, and we could have, I would say, reinvest to like build it up after everything opened up. But honestly, we got to a point that we were a little bit burned out. It was hard. Building a startup is hard, and we felt like this was a damn good experience. It was super fun. It all launched us into business, all three of us. And we started, building careers separately. So I became a business developer, still work with the Middle East. I love that market. And I also work with US. And it basically brought me to the US market and entrepreneurship there.
So we've met at Ustvarjalnika, where we were making workshops for the schools, and there was a lot of young people wanted to do entrepreneurship. You watched a lot of these stories really close.
Yeah.
Are there any patterns that you saw in these young people that had some idea that stand out, that this is the reason why you think they succeed?
I'd say creativity is one of them. Not being attached to the idea is really important. Like, you sometimes you have to be like, okay, maybe this was just a stepping stone to a bigger picture, and like knowing when it's time to pivot. Sorry to bother you, but do you know when to know when this is not a good idea and to walk away? Oh, that's a really hard one. I feel like, there's a balance between, is this another hurdle that I need to like solve? Or is this like, okay, everything, God, universe, everyone is telling me I need to like pivot. I think that one's really hard. I can't give you like now is the time. I think you gotta like soul search and feel it. Like I felt like, okay, and I've done a lot of other businesses, business development and so on. I think it's like a 1-2 iterations when you're like, okay, let's try it differently. Is there a breakthrough after that? And if there's you feel like you keep hitting a wall and you don't feel passionate anymore, you don't feel like this is fulfilling, this is fun, then I think you should like move on.
You think so? F that. I mean, how many no. Everybody's going to run up against not feeling it anymore. I feel like it's those that bulldoze through it and say, you know what, I'm not going to effing fail. I'm going to figure it out. And, we're not going to make it through the next 3 months. So something needs to change. Is that not how would you put it?
Yes. I would say that. And there also is a time when you feel like, okay, I got it. Like for my startup, there was a time when I was like, okay, I'm burned out. I don't feel this is it. But I feel like we are stretching it more with Organics in our like hurdles, because I just like I feel it. I just like I see it.
Yeah, it's true.
Like I see it, and I feel like every hurdle we have, I feel like okay, this is steering us towards something. But you also have to be good at like seeing the obstacles and like pivoting and like doing something with it, not just like I'm gonna proceed doing the same thing and it's just gonna resolve itself. It won't. It's usually steering you towards something else.
Yeah, I wanted to tell her that it's a really good answer, because I was also thinking a lot about this, like when to like stop, to go away from some idea that whoever have it. And normally I also think it's like you feel it if you look it back on the project what you had. Of course, because it's different if you like you have enough of this project, like I don't know, you don't want to work on this business, or it's just some tiny challenge that I don't know how to make a good sale of this product, or
So in the startups that you worked with, because you did a lot of that around this accelerator, did you not have like a milestone that you were reaching towards of, okay, we're going to do this for 6 months. We have this runway, and I need to convert 50 customers, and 20 of them need to be repeat orders. So I need whatever that is, a 40% retention of those customers.
Yeah, like quantitative milestones. So
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, if we reach this, we
proved the thesis.
We proved the thesis.
Yeah.
Yes, we had. And we had that in our camel business. Like we have in those like year and a half, we've reached the milestones. And like I said, from a business perspective, I think we knew what are the next steps to keep going and scaling. From a personal perspective, I made a decision that I am burnt out and that I do not feel like pursuing that anymore. So I think there are two things. Is like, is this a rational business decision that you have metrics and you're like, okay, I am absolutely failing. This business is failing. There is no need for it. There's no demand for it. I need to do something differently. Or is it like this business is challenging and I am personally not in a environment or a headspace or whatever to keep doing what I need to do to get to a certain point? Because I feel like the business that we took over, I think at that point, the three of us, we knew what we need to do to get it to a next step. And the third person, Richie, did not go further with us because he was not in a headspace to do that. And we were absolutely
ready
willing.
to pay the price. Yeah.
We were ready to pay the price. I think there are two things. One is seeing it from metrics from like a business perspective. And the second part is, am I personally and my family, because it's always a family decision. If you're married, if you have kids, your family is paying the price for your business decisions too. Am I personally, my family, my lifestyle, willing to pay the price to where you need to get to, like for the next like 2-3 years, how you see that this is gonna look like? And at a certain point in my life, I made a decision that I'm not. And at a certain point in my life, I made a decision that I'm willing to do it again.
Also based on how much control you have.
Also true.
I feel like that bar gets shorter the less control you have in the company. If you have unilateral control, then it's okay.
But what if you just have enough of this business, of some perspective of the business, maybe, or
I've got a friend like that.
Yeah,
he and I have been talking quite a bit. San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. A canvas company.
Okay.
He and I have been going back and forth on it, and he's just over it. He's so over it. And he's like, I don't think this is scalable and this, that, and the other thing. I think a lot of business is just endurance. I put it back to you of what you think. But I think it's endurance. And I think, what's fun? Fun is fucking winning. And it's really not fun to keep losing and have endurance. But having endurance and being able to keep going and getting yourself there when you're not winning is what is ultimately going to get you to win. So it's this catch-22. But what do you think?
Based on what I asked you, I thought I'm thinking about a bit differently. But yeah, there are at least two ways to go it. But you have you have more options, but you have two options. One is like, okay, I will do what I really like to do. I will follow my passion, let's call it, and just do on some businesses that I really like to do. If I will do this long enough, the money will come and I will be happy and I would be like really good at this, what I'm doing. Yeah. The other way, it's like, okay, I don't like to do this business, but it's really good money. When I have enough of money, I will do what I really like to do as what is my passion actually. Like, to which idea are you closer with?
I think I see your point. If you have a really successful business and you are no longer passionate about it and you want to go do something else, I'd like to offer you my email. I'd love to buy your company so that you can go do whatever the hell is that you want to do. That's a very rare circumstance, though.
I understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because normally it would just be like, okay, you're a skilled carpenter, whatever it is, and you make a lot of money. I mean, I did, right? Like you can make a lot of money at this, but you don't have a business in carpentry because it's hard to build a business, right? Yeah. Is that a fair caveat?
It is. Everything is fair. It's just, you have different views and different ways to get there. I'm not sure which is the correct one. Maybe,
I don't think there's one correct one. I think it's personal.
Depends,
It's really personal journeys. Like, are you doing a business to make money? Are you doing business to make impact? Are you doing business because you want a lifestyle business and you want freedom, which is a double-edged sword. Freedom in being an
freedom is expensive.
And being an entrepreneur it's an interesting thing. But like, we all have different personal motivations why we do it, and you need to like reconcile those. And I think we all make decisions differently. And they're not wrong or right answers here.
I feel like if you can not be happy owning and running a business or starting a business, God forbid, my opinion, then you should not do those things. You should go do what you're happy in. But she's right. Personal, but
for sure. But it's not an easy path.
I understand.
It's never.
You're a
I don't
business
think
owner.
it's
Is
ever
it
an
easy?
easy path.
No, of course not. You choose like to work less and to be freedom, but at the end you work more. So you work more.
That's
and you
why
have,
I said the freedom is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's basically a roller coaster. It's like you're on top of the world, you're really down, you go up.
Right.
But I like this, and I think we all like this. And
let's say you even move above the business, and now you're at the real investor role, and you have your professional management team, and you're not working as many hours. Okay, so now you have the freedom. I don't think people consider the cost of that. More money, more problems. To quote Biggie Smalls. Right. Like looking down the barrel of a lawsuit kind of sucks, and it's something it's a weight that most people don't have to live with. I don't know if you've experienced that one, God forbid.
No.
Yeah. But like, it's an inevitability in the US at least.
Is it like, we'll go to this later, but anyway, I think it's the really big difference in mindset also of the USA and of Slovenian people. That's why it's really interesting to talk about, because I think this is more maybe stereotype, but you're looking bigger on the business. I'm looking at the one carpenter. You're looking 100 people as working in this carpenter office and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I can actually talk about that.
Yeah, you're most qualified. Yeah.
I mean, I started a business here, so like I was an entrepreneur in Slovenia, and then doing it now in US is like, we're very young here. We're a young country. We are young in capitalism. We're young in, what starting a business even means. 20 years ago, if you were a business owner, you were a bad person. You were only in it for money. That's also another like a mindset hurdle that we have to overcome here. It's changing. It's definitely changing. It's better. But because of that, because it's so young, the toolbox is so small here. It's like you either work in a private sector, it's like you work in a public or private sector. That's the first decision. And then maybe a step forward is you start a business, right? Chad would say, I would never freaking start a business. Why would you even do that? Like, why would you start a business?
She started lecturing me on the car ride over here. We were talking about it. And she's like, Chad, do not, you're what's the word? You're pushing away so many people. Right, and you're being an asshole.
I would love to hear this.
He's like, I would never start a business. That's the dumbest decision ever. I started a business, not just one.
I started a business.
But
I think Slovenians need to understand stakeholder capitalism versus like the capitalism that they think about. So when you get to it, I think that's a PSA, public service announcement for all of Slovenia.
Yeah, that's a good one. But that's how I saw it. It was like, okay, that's what was like, okay, I'm deciding between public sector and private sector. I was studying to be a teacher. Okay, so I pivoted from public to private sector. I'm like, oh, this is a little bit more creative. I can actually do stuff. I can actually execute on things because there's less rigid systems. And then the next one was, I want more freedom in being creative. Is like, okay, we're starting a business. Buying a business, I would have never even thought about buying a business. And then when you are thinking about buying a business, which what we're seeing right now is, this is a perfect opportunity to buy a business. I think, Chad, you should talk about statistics. You know the statistics. Why now is a perfect time to buy a business. and not start a business. Next one is, I know everyone's going to think, oh, but then I need to have money, you know, and like, okay, if a business is worth 2 million, whatever, and like 5 times EBITDA, whatever, all of those things, I need to have cash on hand to pay for it, right? That's the first one. And the second thing that we'll pull out of toolbox is, oh, I need an investor. And the US has 90 other things that they can pull out of a toolbox.
To be fair, most of them don't in the US either, though.
Most of them don't in the US.
Most
but
people think the same thing in the US.
Yes,
But less. There's groups that don't. Yeah.
Yeah, there's groups that don't. And like you can find mentors that will help you get there sooner. Like thinking
100%.
out of a toolbox and so on, because I feel like the playbook is so much bigger and so much more creative. And yeah, I think that's the biggest difference that I saw.
But what she's driving at is, so I left management consulting, servicing private equity, right? The big fund guys that have their way of acquiring businesses. And then I ultimately bought Terganics for, it was $10,000 to $15,000, you know, in just, it was fees for a search fund, and interviewed 50 to 100 companies, settled on 2, ultimately bought Terganics. That whole process cost me like 15 grand. And then we bought a $2 million in revenue company. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? And statistically, the odds of success are astronomically higher. Why wouldn't you do that?
Most of the people, most of the companies dies in first 2-3 years.
Right. Is it 90%? I don't meditate on this.
Above
statistic.
90, and it's if you make it past 3 years, you might survive.
And the other thing is before you hit, in my opinion, before you hit, this is US numbers, before you hit $2 million of sales, you don't really know that you have a market for your product, in my opinion. You know that you hit some people, you know, for whatever reason, bought your product. But at 2 million, you're like, okay, I can actually approach more people and optimize process instead of just figuring out how to sell in the first place. You kind of have to reinvent still at 2 million. 10 million, you don't really need to. They've figured out how to sell and scale it to some extent, and you can just add gasoline to it, you know? But that's why I wouldn't want to do something really below 1 million, is you don't really know that product is going to sell or scale.
Where you all the time have, because for me, but it's really different mindset, and I like this about it. For me, even if it would be like, I know this is USA numbers, but if we divide it by 2 for Slovenia, maybe, not sure, or even more, I would say there is a market even if you have like 100,000. Did you had these big numbers in your head, I don't know, even before these corporate jobs and the numbers and all? Or
no, they were way bigger before.
Yeah. But no, in your head, when you were like, you went out.
A milestone that I need to reach to say, okay, I have a market. Like, did you know that before you started working in?
Yeah.
No.
And when you quit your corporate job, you didn't want to start a business, yeah? You want to buy the business from the day one, or even before. When did you get to this? I don't want to start a business. I want to buy a business.
After he failed with his tea company in college.
Tell me more about it.
He realized that he's not as good at starting a business as I am.
Okay, so you tried.
She's not entirely wrong. That's really funny. No, it wasn't exactly a corporate job. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
It was edgy.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we came in when shit hit the fan, and they paid us ungodly amounts of money to solve problems that the amount of money that they pay you is also tied to an expectation. So when they start paying you a lot of money, you get to come up with the freaking answer, and you don't get to look anywhere else.
Okay.
Which is kind of a fun thing. And that was the position, right? And then private equity are like the most savage investors. Out of most board meetings, there's usually one team member of a specific gender that's usually crying. That was the world. Yeah. And those were our ultimate clients. And then we were fixing their portfolio companies. So it was in high intensity. So that we were already kind of expanding, and like their playbook has a bigger capital backing. The playbook I learned outside of that, it wasn't really a corporate job.
Okay. Yeah.
The playbook that I learned outside of that And you can only, notably, you can only learn that with that environment. Like, I don't know how you're going to find it out otherwise. And see how these guys do it, because they're up freaking 12 hours, 7 days a week thinking about this, right? And then the playbook without the capital backing is subtly different. But I think that there's a really good in-between zone, is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So when you quit this job, you wanted to buy a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you decide on the industry, for example?
That's a good question.
I didn't.
So you didn't have any, I want to work in this industry, you just check the numbers? Or how did you go back into this time? Yeah. How did you decide? How did you find this company?
We had a search fund.
Okay. So you find the company, I want to buy the company. How did this look like?
We paid for a service to do outreach on LinkedIn. And we gave them our investment criteria, which is what you're asking, I know. It was really basic because we didn't know what we didn't know. We know that again, sort of towards the revenue numbers, that there needed to be an existing market. And my original partner, who's an awesome dude, really wanted a direct-to-consumer skew.
Okay.
Now I kind of feel the opposite way, but I can deal with both. And we were between, we actually had under contract a quilting company as well. You probably saw that video. A quilting company and then this company. And our original thesis was to sell into home gardening primarily.
Okay.
Now we've obviously pivoted and focused elsewhere.
So you didn't care about the industry. The main criteria was like numbers and D2C.
Somewhere in between. To be fair, we were looking for, I don't even know how to phrase this. Quasi-discretionary. Okay. How to put this? So somebody who quilts, even if there is a great recession, right, or the Great Depression hits, they're going to figure out a way to keep quilting.
Yeah.
Guys in the US, guys that ride motorcycles, I don't care if the Great Depression hits, they're going to find a way to spend all their money on motorcycles.
It's recession-proof.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of recession-proof, but discretionary.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this weird. That was the original thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. And we ended up in agriculture.
Yeah. Via home gardening and homesteading.
Yeah.
Because homesteading kind of falls into that.
Because I think if I would buy a company, the first would be like, okay, what's the industry I want to work in? Mm-hmm. That's why I'm asking you what was the main criteria. So numbers and recession proof and D2C.
Yeah. Marketing is the big thing. Is like if you're not really good at marketing in-house, you're not going to get past 2 million. I mean, you could in certain industries. I don't mean to make a blanket rule. I speak in generalities, but like that was the thing that we were really good at, and we're really good at, kind of financial architecture, business architecture, and so on, and acquiring inorganically. And so we kind of knew we could do it with almost anything, as long as there was a demand for the product that would supersede any sort of market conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for example, you had, they offered you, I don't know, 10, 50 companies, you said, that you can buy when you give to...
No, it doesn't work like that. No, it's a reach out. Hey, we're an investor group. And then it's an initial call. So probably 50 to probably 90 or 100 initial calls. And then, it's a funnel. Everything's a funnel, right? And so on down to the next, preliminary financials. We decide if we want to even entertain a preliminary offer or not. We put a preliminary offer of like, hey, like this is what we're thinking based on what we have here. Obviously, we haven't gone into deep due diligence. Like let's talk about how we think about valuing a company, and kind of set a stage and an expectation for the journey towards closing, and then so on.
How many companies do you think they contacted? It was a number like 10, 50, 100? Like based on, I don't know, it's a funnel. With which number this funnel starts?
How many leads?
Top of funnel, you're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I could guess, but I could probably pretty accurately guess, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. It was probably close to 2,000 companies.
Wow.
2,500 companies.
Okay, so it's really decent research to pick one company to buy, which is the best company to buy.
Yeah, and that's if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah. I understand it, but there was the other company. But it's
you can only be
huge
good at
number.
so many things, though, right? Like you shouldn't be the one on LinkedIn, blah blah blah, right? Like, that's where I think partnerships, who you know. I think most people. I used to think I used to think who you know in business is like kind of what makes everything work. I was gonna know this one person to land a huge contract. It's like that's not really how it works. It's like, no, like you need somebody to plug in a piece of something existing that you already have. That's who you know, not somebody who's going to be that game-changing sale and make your whole business for you. And you only find those connections when you're actually in business and like kind of in the arena, Do you disagree? What do you think?
No, I agree with this. It makes sense. It's really interesting. Okay, if I want to buy the company now, and that's why it's interesting with this number. So there was, 2,000 leads. And with these 2,000, how many due diligence you made? Was it 10 companies?
I did a
that were
crap
so
load of due
close?
diligence, man.
Like few tens, probably, or
30, probably north of 30-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were there any number that you were looking at the beginning? Like what was the main number? Is it like one number that you were looking, or what's the data you were searching in this due diligence?
Got it. The benefit of my background is I made a 3-statement model for every one of them.
Okay.
So that's I take their income statement, same word here.
Yeah.
Income statement, balance sheet. I don't take their cash flow, and then I indirectly create a cash flow from it, and I roll it forward. I look for what breaks, so I usually inform them where their accountant's screwing up, adjust for that, and then say, okay, like what are the numbers and patterns telling me? I mean, once you get to a certain point in real finance, numbers are not numbers; they're stories. Okay. And as soon as you can fully grasp the story of each number and the interactions and ratios of those numbers, you can tell a lot from a business.
Tell me more about it. How do you mean the story?
The company we didn't buy.
Okay.
I noticed a 1 month a spike in revenue, and the cost of goods sold beneath that did not grow at the same pace, right? It didn't, same inflection. And so they had a spike in their gross margin. Like, all right, obviously matching principle, right? You match your revenue with your expenses. Like, obviously something's wrong here. And that was a notable big spike. Like, did they sell? Like, it's either going to hit cost of goods sold next month, the month after, or they sold a subscription or an unearned revenue model, right? They sold something and haven't delivered it yet until 3 months later. And they're not telling us because we did ask that question very directly. And so like just little things like that, but there's so many more things, right? Ratios are where you get real dangerous. Little things like that need to translate into not just academia, but like, okay, now when we wrote them a letter of intent, which really roadmaps, okay, hey, we're interested in you. We intend to pay you $2 million for your company. And we're going to stick to that, but we're going to also do confirmatory due diligence. And our goal is to get you that number. But there are certain things that if these don't prove out, like then we're going to have a conversation about value, right? And it just really roadmaps the rest to closing. So in that, I said, all right, almost always you put in a solid number, $2 million. I said, we're not going to do that here. We can't do that here because there's this open loop and we just need to see it come to conclusion. And so we said, okay, we're going to pay you we're going to agree to a formula, essentially. We're going to pay you a certain amount times your earnings, and we're going to pump the brakes a little bit and we're going to watch actuals come through. And that company went into massive crisis. There's a whole YouTube about it. You might have seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's how you weaponize finance. Does that answer the question? Or?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Please.
I would add, actually, what I think is the best part of the story is this is a company that the owner wanted to like retire, exit. solid. The company was on paper doing great. He didn't see any problems coming.
They posted $700,000 or $800,000 of net operating income, call it.
Yeah, so on paper, doing
All good.
great. I'm going to
Not bad, right?
retire. I'm going to sell this company. This is great.
Had a professional CFO, had a professional CEO.
And he didn't even see it coming that 3 months down the road, he's about to go bankrupt and lose his house. And basically Chad's due diligence is what showed him, hey, you're not doing good. It's like those are the things that he didn't see, the story that the numbers were telling. He didn't see that story because he wasn't weaponized finance. He didn't know how to read those numbers and reconcile those numbers and, see the story behind it. And basically Chad helped him stay in business.
And I feel like that's the bad rap that finance might get, like an accountant. But like once you incorporate these principles and you reject like the accountant bean counting is the slur in the US for it, like get that out of your head. Like incorporate these things in and then use it for like business architecture and strategy. And it does so much, right? Like if they had that, to your point, then they could have seen a yellow flag. We saw a yellow flag, not a red flag. And we were also doing due diligence on another company at the exact same time, the Terganics actually. And we closed shortly after we said no to this company. We were going to close both of them. And then it became a red flag. And I said, okay, let's do this 13-week cash flow. I freaking love 13-week cash flows. So we did this 13-week cash flow, right? So you forget all financial acumen, financial information, and you plot out by bank receipts, cash in, cash out, and you forecast 13 weeks, 3 months, 1 quarter into the future, weekly. Okay. And they had projected, this is where it's great. So there's such a difference in how people think about like a forecast and actuality. And this, I think, highlights it the best. So they were forecasting like $100,000, call it, I don't know what it is, probably more than that, but $100,000 in profitability. And the CFOs produced 13-week cash flow was like negative $250,000. Riddle me this, dude. But like once you turn off like, oh, we're gonna solve 100,000 euros, and it's going to be at a 70% margin, and our cost structure is blah. But like then you get into real brass tacks cash. It's funny how mindset flips. Anyway, sorry, I'm just rambling now.
It's really interesting. Thanks. So you bought Terganics. You decide for one company, you bought it. How did you get the money? Did you have savings? Or
I told you
mentioned before, but it's a difference between, I don't know, 2 million and like 10,000-15,000. What's the magic formula?
There's not. It really depends. It's utilized. There's a lot of ways to finance a company. Traditional bank loan you can do. That's a loaded question. I'll tell you the way we did it. We did it with a lot of seller financing. Okay. And we did something we call like a deferred down payment. So I can't remember what it was, 20% of the company we paid in 90 days. And we took the excess inventory that we assessed and we said, okay, we're going to do a liquidation. And that accelerated enough cash to fund the down payment.
So basically sold the stock, if I understand correctly. And
is that what you call inventory?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or sold the inventory and have the money for the
cash flow, the down payment.
Yeah. Among other things. Yeah.
And how many employees this company had, or any? Did it had any?
Yeah. 10-ish. Yeah.
Okay.
We're still at about 10-ish, but a very different 10-ish and different caliber of 10-ish.
Okay, so you started with this company. You have 10 employees there. How did it go? How did the first years go? The year 1, year 2, year 3? How was it?
Sure. Year 1. So after an acquisition, the other part to cap off like mergers and acquisitions and like the private equity playbook, there's like 100-day integration plan sprint. So launched into that. 13-week cash flow is a key piece of that, and just changing the bank accounts, and there's a lot of like minutia and crap that you got to do, right? Resetting culture, and I think that was man, for some reason, when private equity does it, they have so much capital that they throw at it. They break a lot of things, but they do it quicker than we did. I expected us to just be charging forward after 18 months, 12 months. And I knew better, but it takes 3 years. It takes between 3 and 5 years, actually, I think, to even get to a real business model after acquisition, because you have to like reinvent. And that was true for us, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's hardly recognizable from the company that we bought, to be honest with you. And it was rough. My former business partner, as I mentioned, went the direct-to-consumer route. And they did a relatively good job, right? Like they didn't do anything bad, but our Instagram, the tone of the company, everything was just very different. And also, to their credit, they did scale revenue. So they, through ads, scaled $800,000, $1 million in 4 or 5 months of net new revenue. And it was at a negative 5% contribution margin, which is, I think, one of the most important numbers to know is contribution margin.
What does it mean? Tell me more.
Yeah, and you guys might even call it something different here, to be fair. So in a business, okay, I'm not gonna use escape rooms. In a business, call it like a sauna, there's the spa and then there's like the kids park side of it, right? Okay. Well, what is your variable revenue, right? The cost of acquiring that revenue, the revenue is, and then is that scalable? So into scalable channels. So even within then, I would break it down into segments. And then what are your truly direct variable costs against that pipeline, that funnel?
Okay.
And then what is the end number of that?
Okay.
So said differently, if you push on any one of these levers, you push on the gas pedal, is the plane going up? Is it flat? Or is it tanking you?
Okay.
A lot of sophisticated direct-to-consumer companies will scale it pitch down because of the cost of advertising intentionally.
Yeah.
Trusting that the repeat orders start to
rise.
Like emails,
lifetime value of a customer.
Yeah, but which is great, and that could have even been true for us. But then there's like the order frequency.
Yeah.
That was a key metric that was missed, right? Like how often do they come back? Gardening is kind of like once a year, maybe twice.
Did you know this before, or you were shocked in the first year?
We kind of thought they were going to come back more. And so we lost quite a bit of money.
And I joined shortly after they bought the company. And I think like the first 12 months when you buy a business, because you didn't start the business, you're really learning what the business is. Because everything they told you about it is not what the business actually is. You have to like relearn everything. You have to like actually start talking. We really started talking to our clients. Like really to everyone, to the smallest purchase. We were calling everyone like, what are you using it for? How are you using it? Like we really invested in understanding like who is our audience? Why are they buying it? And so on. And like, the marketing campaign for D2C was super successful. Like it was big. It was a lot of new clients, a lot of revenue, but it was actually basically negative, right? It left the company with a negative
a hole,
a big hole. And then the portion of this business was our commercial part, right? We worked with a little bit with agriculture, and we realized, and we also looked like who's doing this successfully, and started talking to other companies and realized
one of the most important questions anybody can ever ask themselves: who's doing this successfully?
Who's doing this successfully? And just like start, you don't need enemies. Like the markets are usually big enough, unless you're in something, I don't know, but like agriculture in US is big. And we're like, okay, this is what we should do. Our product is adding a lot of values. The protocols that we're launching today are adding a lot of values to the audience. it's more profitable, it's more sustainable, and it's something we became really passionate about. Like the vision that we saw behind it, like we are actually reducing the chemical inputs in farming today and making farms more profitable doing that. And it made our business more profitable doing that. So like, okay, we're doing a business that's profitable. Chad loves to say no margin, no mission. So like, you know, if you want to have a company, like, no, you have to earn money. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. Otherwise, you're not going to do impact. You're not going to reach a lot of people. You're not doing anything. And that's why we started, okay, we're gonna basically build commercial agriculture, but our D2C still needs to cash flow our company. So that we basically make it like we realize, okay, this is a 3-year cycle. We need to like make it on the other side of 3-year cycle. And we did, and we were profitable.
3 year after the first 1.5 years.
When
Notably.
the first 1.5 years was figuring out what you're supposed to do.
It would have been easier if we didn't have a year-long sales cycle.
Yeah. And then after that, okay, this is the route we're going. It's going to take a 3-year cycle. And it did. And that we did breakthrough. So it was very like statistically, yes, it takes 3 to 5 years to either start a business and get it to a certain point that you can say, okay, this is actual business, or turn around a business, scale a business, whatever, pivot, you know, enter a new market, develop a new product. And I would say that is like an average cycle. And we proved that on the turnaround.
I actually think we crush it considering the fact that our customers order once a freaking year. And we get results and real feedback and testimonials once a year.
Once a year.
The fact that we
Yeah, you don't have you can't iterate and pivot every month like a lot of businesses can because it's seasonal. So every time somebody uses it, you have to wait a season, an agricultural season, for the people to come back, give you a testimonial, and then you iterate on your marketing and you have a short window. So like, yeah, I would say it's pretty impressive that we did it in the time span that we did.
So you lost all your sales reps. I hope you can cash flow it for a year. Sorry you had a bad year. Go suffer.
Did you know even before when you were like doing due diligence and everything like that it's like once a year?
The
business?
Seasonality, of course. Yeah.
But that it's so strong seasonable. You knew it before.
The seasonality.
Yeah.
No, it depends on which business segment you lean into. So because we were leaning gardening, but there's other things this does. And that's one of the reasons actually why we are strategically have thought of and think about diversifying certain products and customer types. It's always that delicate balance of like, ooh, you know, those boys that love Spider-Man love the escape rooms. You know, do I want to pivot to the Barbie girls? I don't know, right? But like, yeah.
I understand. It sounds really nice. How was real? What were the biggest problems in these 3 to 5 years?
Sounds nice.
It sounds nice. You did it. You had a plan of 3 years. It was okay 4.5, but it sounds like
brutal.
It was brutal.
Yeah, please tell me more about it.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge or whatever?
Well, on top of already not having a great cash flow, right? Because we had a bad year. We just figured out, okay, we need to pivot in commercial agriculture. We also decided to buy out the business partner so that we took over the business, and another debt. We sold our house to cash flow it. And
how was this moment? Was it like, yeah, this is the normal thing what we do? Or is it like, this is the last chance that we have? Or because
it wasn't even the last chance. It's
what was the question again?
the moment of like deciding
selling.
to sell the house. I think it was at a point with me proven that commercial agriculture is the path forward. We've proven we do have a market.
It wasn't a business. We would have sold it and bought another business if it was about money.
Yeah.
Like so quickly.
Yeah.
I told you. We were going back and forth between selling it and going sailing for 6 months and having a crap load of money left over to start over, do it again, or but we just really believed in the mission of.
We saw it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I said before. Like we saw it proven in our like business thesis, like where we at and where we need to go and like how to get there, and we just need the runway. And also we personally personally felt like, yes, we're willing to do what we need to do, and even if it fails down the road, we feel resolved and like we've done it, we've given it our all. We can, and between us, we could have started whatever, another business. Like we weren't worried about, oh, we're going to be unemployed.
We would have bought.
We would have bought. But we're like, even if we start from scratch, we'll be fine. But we felt like we need to pursue this path, that there's something there, and that we saw this vision, mission, and we felt like we need to do it.
There was a pathway to pulling it off.
Yeah.
It was not much more than a pathway to pulling it off.
A lot of faith.
Because, right? And like, love my former business partner. Awesome dude. Wicked smart. But it put us in a really compromised spot. It did. And so now we were resetting the tone of the company, everything. Right. And it was like, do we want to do this? And yes, there was a pathway theoretically possible. And realistically, if it was mostly about the money, we wouldn't have done it. No freaking chance.
No, we wouldn't.
No freaking chance. No. Go buy that quilting company. I mean, like that would have been a better call, honestly.
Yeah.
But agriculture it's such like a borderline spiritual, like it's so freaking important and it's so impactful that it's actually ironic, as you were describing. I was thinking of like the parallels between what the farmers are facing. The farmers are getting screwed. Your grocery store bill, I saw the other day in Slovenia, it's actually the same thing. The farmers are getting squeezed, compressed, right? They're making less money than ever, both in Slovenia and the United States. And in both Slovenia and the United States, the grocery bill's going up. Riddle me this again. Somebody's making money. Where's it going? Happening in both places. It's interesting, the parallel there. And our farmers that we talk to day to day, they actually don't tell you. One guy told me after the season, he's like, yeah, every year they're like, I'm about to lose it all, like the family freaking legacy, 3, 4, 5 generations. And it's like, it's heavy, man. How do you not fight for that person? So it's...
Yeah, the people we worked with are so worth it. Like I've worked with a lot of clients from different sectors. These are by far my favorite people to work with, by far. And these are real businesses too. These farms are real businesses that are getting real screwed by the government, by every middleman before it gets to a grocery store, by chemical companies. They're getting hit from all sides, and they're fighting and they're surviving. And we just wanted to like be in it with the fight. And it's fight for both. It's fight for farmers and fight for everyone who's buying the food on the other side that's also getting screwed by everything that's being pumped into our food. Yeah. And like the way that our food is produced. And like you're paying more for way lesser quality and lesser quality and lesser quality. So basically the both sides are in a pretty tough position, and we're trying to like alleviate as much pain as possible. And it's just, we freaking love it. We love it.
Were you 5 years ago when you started with this? Was the idea to have it, to flip it after, 5, 10 years? Yeah.
Yeah. The idea was to own a portfolio of companies.
Oh, okay.
And that still is. It's just my timeline and the way I approach it is much more slower and intentional.
Normally, everything is a bit longer. Huh? Even the 3-year cycle is 5. It's like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, the intention was to ultimately flip it. Yeah, a lot of thoughts behind that. But yeah, we're designing it so that we could theoretically flip it, and maybe spin off and sell certain segments that we're not as passionate about. But I have a hard time seeing us ever selling agriculture.
Yeah, but we're very intentional about the people we work with, because I think your bookmark from before, stakeholder.
Please.
You're better
public
at
service.
That's not me, that's him. You're better explaining that.
Somebody needs to explain it in Slovenian for the people.
No, you got to explain in English, right? I'm not good at that.
We can have it all in English.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
May I, or do you want to steer it a different direction? Stakeholder capitalism?
Make some summary or...
Summarizing stakeholder capitalism. So capitalism is all about the, I don't know, I'm sure there's a better word for it, but call it capitalism is all about equity value, right? Like what's going to raise the value on Wall Street, and at everybody's detriment. I think that's very complete. And there are a lot of investors, owner, people that think like me in that stakeholder capitalism is what it's all about. If you don't know what a stakeholder is, it's maybe you probably do to whoever. If you don't know what a stakeholder is, it's anybody in or around the business. So your suppliers, the people you buy supplies from, are stakeholders.
Your clients are stakeholders.
Big
Your
stakeholders.
employees are stakeholders.
Oh.
Everyone you touch with your business is a stakeholder.
And
And the business needs to, that's how we feel, is the business needs to serve everyone. It needs to serve our employees. It needs to serve our clients. It needs to serve our suppliers, everyone we worked with. And that that can slow down your business, but you're building a better business. It's growing organically. It's bringing more value, and you're actually freaking doing something good.
I don't know. I would be curious if our vendors have ever heard anybody other than me care that they have a healthy enough margin. You know, actually, the Department of Defense, the U.S. government, when they write contracts, one of the things that they you'll lose when you bid for a big Navy, Army, whatever contract, you will lose it if you don't have enough margin baked in, because they will anticipate that you will de-minimize and not focus or maybe even be in business to service their contract.
Yeah, you're going to cut costs.
Stakeholder capitalism.
You're going to cut costs, right? You're going to start using worse materials. You're going to start using worse labor or whatever, right? Like,
Or prioritize that new contract that you bid.
the whole chain needs to survive.
That's right.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what are the biggest mistakes people buying a business or making?
There's too many to count. I mean, I'd be curious. What does your gut tell you?
Not enough due diligence, focus on the different segments of the business. Maybe this business looks nice, but is it profitable?
Okay. Yeah.
Can you make it profitable?
Okay. I think that would go into buying a business.
Mhm.
A business is an asset, right?
Yeah.
How would you define an asset?
Something that you own and that you get some money out of it.
It's can be convertible to cash, right?
Yeah.
So are you buying business for the amount of cash it's going to produce next year or over a number of years?
Number of years.
Okay. If two businesses have the same, whatever it is, 100 euros a year, right? And there's two of them, and they're doing the exact same in their forecast. Why might you value one different than another?
There's so many reasons why.
But it really actually comes down to one, I would argue. If they both, okay, let's just say that both of them are going to produce that 100 euros a year.
Okay.
Are they worth the same, or are they worth something different? Just all things
it
equal.
Depends on
all
the
things equal.
so 100
All things equal, a different product, different industry.
and the profit and the seasonality, everything.
100 of profit. Doesn't even matter. Forget the revenue. You're going to net 100 euros of cash every year in perpetuity.
And same number of employees.
Different number of employees.
Then probably that one with less employees is worth
Because their
more.
headache.
Yeah.
I feel that resonates. That's hilarious. That's so funny. Okay, as a strategic investor,
Please.
that might be true. In principle, an asset is worth a future cash outcome, right?
Okay.
And in theory, regardless of if it's 100 million and it nets to 1 or 100, or 1 million and nets to 100, it's not exactly right, but directionally correct. Like they're essentially worth the same because there's, in this example, zero risk of this cash return. Okay. And ultimately the asset is a cash return, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay.
And the risk associated with the future cash returns. That's where big businesses get a higher reward for a much bigger business will be worth a lot more because the $100 million business in that example, million euro business, is going to be considered or perceived as less risky. And so the surety of that 100 euros is greater, right? And so that's where a lot of that comes in, that artful kind of math. I forgot where we were going with it, but I think that's an important baseline. And so in structuring and architecting everything of, okay, well, if that is true, and ultimately the thing that we are producing is, or I hate this because this is where I divide in where I was saying I kind of do, kind of don't like private equity. Private equity thinks like that. Very not by the book, but kind of by the book in a sense. And then the stakeholder capitalist entrepreneur says, I feel like this is so Tjaša, says, like impact, culture, and all of those things are the things that are going to contribute or de-risk, which is also true. The blend of the two is the most true, in my opinion. Like on this other one, the private equity, everything's a bell curve. So some are great, but it's soulless. And then there's like the entrepreneur, the family business operator that is very soulful. I think the magic's combining the two. And I think that de-risks cash flows significantly more even. So many private equity companies fail because they're also simultaneously idiots. That's my skew. So nice. What do I think people miss? They misjudge risk. Biggest mistakes for business acquisition. Well, there's a whole playbook that you may or may not know. If you know it, that's great. There's the private equity way to
identifying
approach.
Future risks.
Yeah, and really understanding the asset value. I guess that's where I was going with it. Is like how do you actually measure and tangibly recognize the asset value? That would be the intrinsic inherent value. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, well, what we were talking about? You were talking about employees, right? Like we were talking about strategic value. That's the only reason why. Which company bought Snapchat? Is it
Facebook?
Facebook, I think.
Meta.
I'm not
Did
sure.
they buy Snapchat?
I
feel like all of them are the same thing at this point.
Yeah, that's why.
One of the.
That's why Snapchat sold for way the heck more than their intrinsic value, and a lot of these tech companies do. Is because if you bought another escape room, you could immediately cut cost and you could immediately shift some of your demand over to them. That's a strategic value. And that's the value of having a platform company. And that's why starting with the platform company is the most important part, is because then you can play that game and pay a strategic value to somebody.
But when you will buy the next company, it will also be in this industry, or it should be because of the platform company, or no?
It depends. I'm actually interested in there are a few industries that I would be interested in also kind of partnering with and moving aside with, in addition to this one, but not too many. Kind of thinking like 2, 3. But yeah, we definitely will be acquiring in this industry.
And okay, in this industry, yeah. You will not go now like out to completely other industry just to have a platform to make some connections. And
once you have a platform,
I think it has to plug in. I mean, once you have a platform, it has to plug in, and then it depends. Are you buying audience? Are you buying infrastructure? Are you buying a product segment? Like it depends what makes sense for you. But if you set up your company to be a platform company, then you can grow and make bigger growth leaps or whatever by buying or adding and so on. And you don't have to build everything in a 5-year cycle. You can buy, integrate, and basically get just new audience that you can just plug in your product or through their, logistics and whatever. You can make those bigger
You
scaling
can capture the
moments.
strategic value
Yeah.
of an acquisition. Yeah.
Yeah.
And have some new angle of buying this company because someone will not see it, but you will have some advantage with your existing business.
I think I see where you're going with it now. If I went to a different industry, it would be to establish and build it from another platform company.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of like the 3-year thing where it's like now we're heavily in the inorganic and hyperscale stage of Terganics. And so I would do it as more of like let's get the foundation right in another industry and be prepared to do that in like 3 years, realistically.
Okay. Let's go back to the business mindset. USA, Europe, Slovenia, maybe. I think you're thinking a lot bigger than most of the people here. What do you think?
I think the biggest difference is, I think I said before, right, that Slovenia is pretty young and pretty young on the market. And I think the biggest mindset challenge is that, owning a business, you're still perceived as bad, or like, oh, you're just in it for money, or you're just making money, or like, I feel like people still really don't see the background and the pain, and like, people really don't really do it just for money, or mostly for money, because that comes the last, I feel like.
We've done some crazy things not in our family or self-interest to protect our employees.
Yeah. To protect the business
and our customers.
That was not in our best financial or other interest. And I think that majority of business owners, especially small and medium businesses, are doing that. Because you have to do that to protect the business so the business can continue. And eventually, maybe it will be in your best financial interest. But it for sure is not most of the times. And I feel like that is, that is keeping people from doing it, or it's so hard to sometimes to talk to people because they only see that, oh, you're a business owner, it's so great. It's really hard. It's really hard, and you have to make decisions that are, like he said, not in your best interest. And I feel like in the US, that's more as a matter of fact. And it's more known, and I feel like the community is more celebrating wins. It's more, it's joining the win, it's celebrating the win, it's supportive. They're more like, yeah, if I help somebody else, like I'm paying forward because somebody else helped me, or I will be helped eventually. Yeah. It's more natural. It's more like this community that really like understands, and it's easier to find somebody that's your peer or a little bit further than it is here. I think that's the biggest
mentorship, dude.
Mentorship, yeah.
Tell me more. Whoever.
I mean, I had mentors on my startup journey here. Great mentors. I mean, Marco, that's how we met. But it's a smaller network, and which is also a great opportunity here. Yeah. Not a lot of people are seeking for mentors, so go out. Like
every disadvantage is an advantage.
Every disadvantage is an advantage. I felt like I was super supported here because I went out there and I seeked it. All of us, the team, seeked mentorship, and we had a great community. We had great network, and that's also like, again, opportunity is because if you flip that mindset and be like, yeah, not a lot of people are starting whatever businesses here. It's not a big community. Then just go and have everyone from that community on your side, because you can have them because it's so small. Other thing is, the community is bigger in US, but also the demand for community is bigger, and it's harder to have maybe deeper connections and mentorships and so on. So I feel like you have to like work harder for it, be more on it than I.
Business in the US is warfare.
It's warfare, yeah.
Like full blown. That's why we started our thing, Wartime CEO. Yeah. It's like it comes from a book, The Hard Thing About the Hard Things.
Okay.
And if you want a reality check of if what you're doing is hard, that book is a good
We'll read
good
it.
one. Oh my gosh, so good.
But yeah, like one of the businesses that we work with is the Wartime CEO, which is basically like helping people that want to do stuff like that. Like, do you want to buy a business? Do you want to sell a business? Do you want to, like, are you in a cash flow crisis position and you need some
Runway,
creative or creative toolbox to fix it? Or is there something I'm not seeing and somebody else who would came in would see? Or do you have a cash conversion cycle problem? Do you have a profitability problem? Like, all those things are usually solvable, and maybe you just don't see it at that point. And like, those are the things that we're helping other businesses. And
can I piggyback on that?
Mm-hmm.
Part of why we started Wartime CEO was I noticed that there was a lot of predatory behavior in the US, especially around advisors,
Okay.
consultants.
And it's bloody expensive, and they don't deliver a whole heck of a lot of value. And it usually is maybe it's good advice even, right? But it only survives as long as they're there. And it's like, we're a huge believer in systemic, real social change, and cultural shifting. It's like, business is statistically getting significantly harder in the US. My gut tells me that's probably true here. The cost of doing business is higher than ever. The consumer's fickle, right? They're fragile. And instead of charging the ungodly amounts of money, like I was saying before, I'm like, well, screw it. I'll give it away. And if people want to work with us, that's great. If people have the team and the capacity to do it in-house, I hope they do. And I hope that they don't go pay somebody ungodly amounts of money, because I know exactly how those guys do it. I do it. I did it, professionally. Here it is. Do it if you can. God bless you. And just being a freaking blessing in people's lives, which is simultaneously why I think it's the hardest time to be in business, and the easiest is, like, I feel like in the US, at least, I think that customer service is becoming a lost art, especially as
AI.
as margin compresses, as cost of business gets more expensive, as your consumer becomes more sensitive to price increases, right? You have less money to go around. Where do you cut first? Oh, maybe I need one less customer service rep, or, maybe we don't refund that order. And it's like the exact opposite of, like, lean in, baby. Like, be part of it. Anyway.
So if I want to buy a business, I come to you. You will help me check the numbers. And
yeah. If you're really serious about it, right? Like, we'll work through something. It's a journey. You got to be ready for a dogfight, and, like, prepared to be humble and learn, and just roll with the punches. But yeah, like, I'm looking for gritty people that we want to do life with, and everybody else. Here's some great content, and God bless you. I hope you and your community can do it on your own, and I'll help from afar. Yeah.
Nice. If you would, I don't know, forget everything what you have now, and you would have all this experience from today, would you now, after all this story, like, buy the business or start the business? For you, I know the answer. That's why I'm asking Tjaša.
That's a good question.
Is it?
He's shocked.
With reconciling both sides and all the experiences, I would buy the business, but there's a lot of business development in there, and there's a lot of things that I implemented from the startup world. And I think if we didn't come from two different angles and did it together the way we did it, we would have not be where we are today. And my starting a business experience was what helped us build a segment that was actually starting from scratch, pretty much. And it was very startup-y inside of a existing business. So yeah, I would have bought the business, but there would be a lot of starting a business experience implemented in it. And basically I love what Chad says. We disassembled and assembled a plane mid-flight. We
Nice.
cleaned. This is unrecognizable from what it was for, let's say, 5 years ago. This is a completely different business, and it was an existing business. So a lot of things from starting a business was used. So I think everyone has their own journey. I think the fact that I did start a business helped us build this business, and the experience helped us build this business. So like now with my experience, I would buy a business. If I go back 10 years ago, I would have started a business again. And
That's a
never
good
again.
point.
Never again.
If marrying you and marrying that idea, but for, that's two legalese. If we didn't have, we built, damn near rebuilt a whole sales funnel and business segment within this business that was going to be our key growth driver. I truly don't believe that would have happened in the other from the get-go. When I was in due diligence, one of the things that I had is this company was $2 million and had like 200 SKUs. SKUs are like a unique product identifiers, right?
Product lines, yeah.
You've got 200 products. You do $2 million. You got no focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so from the get-go, it was, okay, we need to rein that in, bring it in. But it kind of also tells a signal of, back to what I was saying about like, once you reach a certain threshold, then you have kind of proof of, people
Market.
Market.
Yeah. Proof of concept.
Well, okay. The other business didn't have that same problem. There's a lot of businesses that don't have that same problem. They are naturally, structurally, otherwise already more targeted and focused. And they can just be optimized from there. This was truly a de novo or a starting from scratch, damn near it. And so I don't think that, I still think that experience is freaking valuable in every example. I don't think it's the mission critical make or break
In
that it
every
was.
business that you buy or acquire.
Short version. Yeah.
Nice. What would be some advice from your side, both of you, like for someone who is really having a really small company, like maybe few employees, and maybe he's not thinking big enough?
Good question.
I think first of all, what is big enough? And like you have to ask yourself, like, what business are you building? Are you building a lifestyle business? Do you just want the freedom and, have a small team and make sure you're taking care of everyone, everyone's happy, and you just want a lifestyle business? Do you want to exit? Do you want to build a next Facebook? Like, what is your, like, I think if you need to first know why are you doing it and what is your end goal, because the path there is going to be completely different.
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel the why though is really good because I could imagine a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, like I don't know what I want my exit to be.
Yeah. I can give you advice how to do something if you don't know why and where you're going with
What's
it.
the end goal? Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
because
wish?
for some people they might come, oh, I want to think bigger, and then you boil it down to like, oh, actually your business is exactly what you want right now. You don't want the bigger picture. You don't want to think bigger. It's serving you and it's serving the people around you the way you want it to. So I think that's the first one. And what's the next piece of advice? I don't know. I think that's the biggest piece of advice I would get somebody.
Good one.
It's pretty
You
good.
agree?
What advice would you give somebody
Yeah,
small
yeah.
trying to get bigger? What is your system? What is, like, thinking about architecture more than just, if I'm a carpenter, I've got my jobs, I've got my people that work the jobs, and then I've got the people that probably call my cell phone. Okay. The first piece I would say, if you're trying to, after you've asked yourself those questions, that's why it's a great starting point. the first piece that you need is you need the top of the funnel. You need the funnel is, how do people hear about you, right? Because your network is going to run out. And I would never, I don't say, dare not say never, but I really can't see myself ever buying a business that doesn't have an idea of top of funnel. How do people hear about you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and guess that you've probably asked yourself that a lot for your different businesses. So I'll turn it back to you. Just use you as a little back and forth. So how do people find out about you?
Through previous projects and through mostly like this. Maybe some webinars and that kind of stuff.
Okay. So, and the great thing about this is you just watched us have a hour and a half banter, right? Or somebody just watched us have an hour and a half banter. So you have more familiarity. And I think that the market has changed to need to be distrusting, which I love. I think it's fantastic. Distrusting and need familiarity. But then that's great. I would actually say that should be a step below the topmost part of the funnel, which is whether it be paid advertisements in some industries. I noticed our babica is on television, like cable television.
Where your
here.
audience is.
Yeah, where your audience is.
Yeah, who's your audience and where is it? Like, where can you reach out to them if you need to? If you're like, oh, I need 10 more clients, that means I need to talk to 100 people. That means I need to, 1,000 people need to see me, right? So like, where do I go for the 1,000 people that see me? Is it a conference? Is it a podcast? Is it a fair? Is it paid advertisement? Is it paid advertisement on Google? Is it on Facebook? You know, like, where are those 1,000 people camping right now?
And how much do they cost? For Terganics, it costs about $12 to talk to every farm.
New farm.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's a number you should know. And oh my gosh, you know what my advice might be? If God forbid you went to business school, throw the books away. Whatever they told you about marketing is wrong. I lit up my marketing teacher because that's just who I am. I know it's a curse. But I just went after our marketing teacher in undergrad. And she was trying to pretend like we were Nike. Like, who the F here is Nike? Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't care if you're what's the popular brand, Sway, whatever.
Whatever.
You know what I mean? Like, whatever the most popular brand is in Slovenia. Like, you're not Nike unless you freaking know you're Nike. And like, brand's kind of important, but like, it's not the cost per lead and like the top of funnel and the getting gritty and being like, okay, one of our friends is in real estate, Mary, right? And she talks about radio. We have AM and FM radio. I assume it's the same here.
Yeah.
We have AM radio, which is like the old person's, like the most old person's, like political talking.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the best place for them to advertise for, you know, buying or selling a home. Makes tons of sense.
Once you hear it, it
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
And it's bloody cheap to advertise there, right? Like, marrying creativity and marketing, which was not something that I was that familiar with until 5 years ago, is so critically important. So I would say start there with your top of funnel and then work down the system and make sure the entire system is oiled and works.
Nice. What do you want to add for the end?
We're gonna have workshops here.
Yeah.
Love to, have you be a part of it too. And yeah, like we're just obsessed with empowerment. Don't care if it's in our best interest or not. Just figure it'll come back around. But yeah, we're gonna have workshops about acquisition, about scaling businesses, about establishing that platform that's going to be resilient and not impacted by, fluctuations, God forbid the fall apart of the European Union, something resilient and durable. I love that word, durable. And Those are most likely going to be in June of 2026. If you're interested, we're going to have more of that coming out. We've got a newsletter. Wartime-CEO.com is where you can sign up for the newsletter. You'll post our information.
Yeah, I'll add all this info in the description. I would love to go to a
and
workshop.
There's a lot of free content, a lot of explanation of tools and the things you can do on the YouTube, and it's a lot of content just coming up. So
yeah, I have seen some of it, and it's good, and I'm looking forward to watch more.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. It was really good talk. Thanks, both of you. And this is it.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks to our host, DJ Mike at Podcast Studios.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.